Hello, my name's Helen Bevan, and I've spent the last 30 years working as an internal change agent in the National Health Service in England, leading very large, complex programmes of change. And I'm delighted to be here today to endorse creating the conditions for change and integration. And I'd like to share with you some of my own knowledge, things I've learned over the years about leading and supporting large-scale change. I'd like to tell you a story. In September 2022, there was a new evaluation that got published about supporting change in the National Health Service in England. And basically what had happened was 6 or 7 years ago, 5 hospital systems in England had all embarked on a journey to create organisation-wide quality improvement. And there's a team from the USA called the Virginia Mason Institute, which gets some of the best healthcare improvement outcomes in the world. So Virginia Mason came from the USA to the NHS in England and worked with 5 hospital systems. And you know, there was an evaluation, and 6 or 7 years later, what this evaluation showed was that all of these hospital systems had all got the same inputs. They'd all got support from the Virginia Mason Institute, from the USA. They'd all got resources from the NHS to help them to implement change. They were all in a learning community together. But 3 of the 5 hospital systems had moved forward with their performance and were doing really well, and 2 of them had gone backwards. And what the evaluation looked at were what were the factors that made a difference. And what the evaluation showed, was the most important factor when it came to the ability to make change happen across a big, complex system, was building what the evaluators called cultural readiness for change. And what they meant by that is that those hospital systems that prior to being part of this big experiment with Virginia Mason, those hospital systems that had already invested in building cultural readiness, developed and amplified the values of their organisation, built relationships and built connections. They had built really strong foundations so that when the Virginia Mason improvement approach happened, they could plug it into what was already happening. Those organisations that hadn't done the cultural readiness but brought in the improvement methodology, to a large extent it was like trying to make change happen on a bed of sand. There were no strong foundations. So actually, building readiness for change, building the relationships and connections that are aligned with the values of the organisation and what it stands for is such a critical aspect of change that I can't really overestimate how important it is. So what I'd say is that when we're thinking about embarking on any change process, we need to start by thinking about the people that will be impacted by that change process. And before we do anything, before we start making, change plans or thinking about what we're going to do, we have to involve those people. And one of the terms that I would use every time is our shared purpose. So we need to start off by thinking about, like I said, those people that need to be involved. And then secondly, we need to think about the shared, what unites us? So, whether we're talking about people that use services and their families and community leaders, as well as people that work in the system, senior leaders, clinical teams, we need to think about all those people and what unites us. And then finally, we need to think about purpose, so our shared purpose. And when we talk about purpose, we mean, what is it that we're trying to do here in this change that connects with the things that really matter to us? Very often, when you've got people that work in the healthcare system and they write a purpose statement, It's all about, how we want to do better quality or speed things up. And very often we haven't involved actual service users enough. So, we have to think about all those people, everybody that's part of our shared purpose, and we have to think about, for each of those people, what matters to me. And then, when we have thought about that, we need to say, how does this connect, this change, with what really matters to people, and how do we frame it in that way? And very often in health and care, the first thing we do in terms of a change process is think, what's our aim? What are we trying to make care safer? Are we trying to, take the variation out of the system? And what should our goals and metrics be? And actually, that's not the right place to start. I mean, coming up with aims and working out our metrics are really important, but that's downstream. We have to start in a place of our shared purpose, and get the more that we get people on board very, very early in the change process. It might take us 10 times as long doing all that cultural preparatory work, but as we go down the road of a change, I see this time after time. It's so worth making that investment. So what's wonderful for me about the HSE's Change Guide is it has such a strong focus on, working through, thinking about and taking action on those cultural and people-focused issues right up front that create the conditions for successful change. I think that very often change guides don't start in the right place, and the HSE Change Guide absolutely does. Most health services are made up of very complex systems, so how do we navigate them? Most change thinking, that is currently used is based on hierarchical systems. And, hierarchies were great 100 years ago when change happened very slowly and incrementally, and it absolutely made sense to have, divisions and departments where the work was taken into silos, and everybody kind of knew their place and did their work. But actually, when we think about health and care services today, they are, very, very different. We need to be able to move much, much more quickly. We need people to be able to connect across boundaries, and we need to keep learning all the time. So the first thing I'd say is, we absolutely have to start from a place of shared purpose, because we cannot, in a top-down way, determine the things that need to happen. Because we don't know what is going to happen. So if we actually start from a really good place of shared purpose, it creates a kind of a North Star that moves everybody in the right direction, and we don't need so many rules and policies and standard operating procedures, because we're all moving forward in the same direction with shared purpose. The second thing I'd say is the importance of relationships. People think that power in organisations, power to make change happen, comes with authority. And, it's a myth that the people that are most senior in the organisations have got the most power to make change happen. Actually, study after study has shown that that's not true. The people in organisations who make and break successful change are the people who are the informal influencers. Again, organisational network analysis shows that in typical organisations, there's about 3% of people who are the very powerful informal influencers, and they're driving about 85% of the conversations that are going on. And most senior leaders don't even know who these informal influencers are. And what I see time and time again in situations of complex change is that the change goes wrong because the people leading the change aren't connecting and involving the informal system enough in dialogue, you know. And those informal influencers are enabling change to move forward or are blocking it through relationship and connection based on trust. So all of us who are leading change need to learn from these people. Okay? There's a Dutch saying which says that trust, okay, comes in like a tortoise and goes out like a horse. And I think, you know, let's think about that. You know, people will only engage in change if they trust the people that are leading the change, and that you know, good outcomes will come from it. And it can take a very, very long time to build trusting relationships. But if I, as a leader of change, okay, undertake actions or say things that break trust, it can change instantly. Okay, and that's why, as change leaders in a complex system, my actions and my words and my deeds and the way that I behave and the extent to which I follow up in the way that I say I will are critical actions. Okay, and you know, we should be in a situation of change. Okay, we should be judging each other, okay, or assessing each other not only on our ability to achieve outcomes, but also on our behaviours. You know, in a highly complex relational world, okay, it's what we need to do. And then the final thing that I would say for navigating a complex world is the importance of working through systems and networks. You know, hierarchies again are very slow ways of making change happen, because hierarchies, you know, were used, you know, 100+ years ago, when hierarchy became the main way of organising, because it was a world of stability, you know, of consistency, of reducing risk. So, which were great in a highly stable world. But in our world, you know, hierarchy is important, but it just doesn't work as well. So, you know, our ability to you know, to make change happen through networks, okay, to you know, to build communities of action, communities of practice, okay. Find the existing networks, find the people that are already organised and have got the passion for the same thing. It's the quickest way to make change happen. So we don't need to, like, you know, go and invent new networks or start from scratch. Actually, if we can find the people who want the same things that we want, that are already organised through community groups, through unions, through communities of interest, then actually we can make change happen quite quickly. When I was very new at leading large-scale change projects, I used to think that magic happened because we created a change program and we brought, you know, lots of people together, and that the magic happened in the change program. Now that I'm much older and wiser, what I understand, that's not where the magic happens. Okay, the magic happens at the point of care. The magic happens at the you know, the relationship, the connection between people that use services, people that provide services, and community. So, you know, the whole move towards integrated care, personalised care, you know, care and change happening in a local context. So that's why I'm so delighted to see the focus in creating the conditions for change and integration on local, place-based change, because that's absolutely where the magic happens.